Welcome to another installment of the REINS Spotlight series, where we talk with the nation's top infrastructure leaders. Our guest today is Dennis Smith, AICP. Smith is planner in residence at Florida State University's Department of Urban and Regional Planning, and director of the Mark and Marianne Barneby Planning and Development Lab. As an FSU graduate himself, he has over 30 years of public and private sector experience in community development, risk mitigation, and transportation planning. His recent applied research has examined expanding multimodal mobility options at both the design and policy level, as well as developing protocol for better understanding factors that influence transportation system risk. Dennis, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here.
So, Dennis, you have a unique viewpoint into planning as someone who is in the academic sphere at the moment. Tell us, what made you want to make the move into going into academia at FSU?
That's a great question. So in my career, I have had the opportunity to work both in the public sector in different capacities, and then also in the private sector. For me, I reached a point in my career where I felt I had an opportunity to really give back. I had been working for a major AEP firm, Atkins North America, and when I was there, I was able to work as an adjunct professor, actually for FSU in a different capacity in their public administration department, teaching disaster recovery and mitigation courses as part of their certificate program. And it was through that I really felt that spark. I felt this desire to really play more of a role in the training of new professionals. And so when the planner in residence position came open at FSU, I really jumped at the opportunity to apply and was really blessed to get that job.
You know, you brought up the public and private sector, I guess, career paths, and I'm really glad you did, because we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But before we do, I wanted to, a big mission here at REINS is to bridge the gap between academic teaching and real world experience for students and young professionals in the infrastructure field. So you're uniquely qualified to, let us know, tell us, do you feel that universities adequately prepare students to be successful as planning professionals?
Important question for all universities to grapple with, but particularly university programs that are training AEP CM professionals. In planning, it's not uncommon to have design labs, classes where students are placed into real world experiences or working for real world clients. That's really all I do within the Department of Urban and Regional Planning in terms of bridging that gap. I set aside enough projects so that each semester students can gain some real world experience and apply both the practical skills that they're learning in their urban and regional planning curriculum, the theoretical knowledge of planning, to bring it to bear on these real world projects.
Now, as someone with both private and public sector experience, is it important to have both sets of experience? So, yeah.
Well, you're right. There are really a kind of different contexts in both the public and private sector, and then even in academia compared to a public sector job. Certain strengths that lend themselves to a public sector job, likewise with a private sector job. I think with public sector jobs, you may have more contact with the public. You're going to have more enduring contact. You're going to have more relationship building. For people who like the private sector, might require people to work on multiple projects at any given time. So you might not be able to get the kind of the long-term view on the impacts of your actions, but you'll have a lot of challenges. You'll have a lot more variety than you might in the public sector. I would recommend finding a job that you like, but being open to shifting between public and private sector through one's career. to get a better understanding of where you might fit in best and what might make you the happiest as a professional.
Fantastic. Now, you're a planning professional, you teach, you're a director of your own lab. So from all these roles, you're obviously in the thick of things. Where do you see the planning field 10 years from now? And what do students and young professionals need to do to have the skills and knowledge to be successful in the next 10 years?
So it's really necessary, I think, to have trained professionals over the next 10 years that can really balance different alternatives using science and data-backed decision-making processes to give decision makers, elected and appointed decision makers, the best information that they can have to make these lasting changes in our community. I would say what I would recommend for planning students over the next 10 years is to be flexible. So the world is changing, but planning is a profession that works well with a changing world.
So I want to drill in a little bit deeper into your own career. So what is a challenge, like a major challenge or stumbling block that you encountered, and how did you overcome?
I think those are always excellent questions for not just younger people to listen to someone respond to, but also my peers, because I'm sure they've had similar experiences in their lives. And I think oftentimes we minimize the impact that we've had on ways of thinking. When I was a young planner here in Florida, I worked in the context where we were directing federal resources to post-disaster projects. So, a disaster would come and the federal government, maybe aligned with the state, would find money to give to impacted communities to do mitigation projects. So really we were paying for mitigation, which is a means of reducing losses after a community had been impacted and not before. And so I saw the disconnect and was able to work to envision a process of pre-disaster mitigation planning. In Florida, we call it the local mitigation strategy. I worked with a team of 3 other planners to develop the prototype. It ultimately became federal law. All communities in America have to have pre-disaster mitigation plans that direct at least FEMA resources after a storm based on cost benefit, based on a risk analysis, based on community impact and community input. So, I really feel like I was able to come in possibly at the right time. A lot of this is luck, but with an open mind and solve a problem and see that even after 25, almost 30 years, I've had lasting impact in the way in which we address natural hazards in the United States.
Now, I wanted to go into your leadership. So you've actually coached multiple student teams who have been awarded and recognized for their innovation. So you're obviously an effective mentor. What do you think it takes to be a good mentor? And what have you gained from mentors in your own life?
Right, so regarding mentoring, it's really an important and often overlooked element of our professional work. I worked, and I'm a strong advocate of trusting people, giving them the skills to do their job through professional development, giving them the tools they need to do their job through strategic investment, and then letting them do their job. I recognize that in the academic world, the graduate students I work with will be taking care of me when they're my age through the decisions that they are making. They're going to help to shape a society that my children and grandchildren will live in. So I treat my students with the utmost respect, knowing that they are going to play this role in the future.
So What is the one thing that you enjoy the most about planning?
I think what attracted me to planning is the kind of the future leaning aspect of it. Planning is really a profession for futurists and idealists. We work with data, we consider alternatives, but we engage with the community, but we do so in such a way that we shape what our communities can become, whether it's through policies. You mentioned some of the work I did recently exploring multi-mobility options in North Florida. Recently, you'll see with the president's new infrastructure plan and discussions regarding the restoration of some and expansion of some Amtrak services, a map where we show a segment between Jacksonville and New Orleans for Amtrak that's not filled in. Well, we'd like to see that, right? Wouldn't we like to see that in the future? So planners need to think about the future, whether it's for transportation, whether it's through ways we live and how we organize ourselves. But we do that also so that we can have a better quality of life.
But if you had to give, like just one piece of advice to a student that they could just hold on as they go through their career, what would that be?
I would say try different things. Find a path that best suits you and your desires as a person. Some people like a more active and energetic schedule. Some people don't. Some people really need a high degree of work-life balance. Others don't. Others thrive to be kind of in the machine. So I would just advise students to give different experiences a try, and not to be absolutely wed to having to figure things out immediately.
Dennis, we would love to know what is the greatest challenge we're facing in terms of transportation planning these days?
Yeah, so I would say that one of the greatest challenge, or probably the greatest challenge, was identified as far back as the 1960s when some academics argued that we would really never be able to build our way out of the problem of congestion. And you know how much the world's changed since the 1960s, but the problem remains with us. So I think the greatest challenge that we face as planners and engineers and construction managers and architects involved in transportation is demand management, transportation demand management, really figuring out unique ways in which we can reduce the number of individual trips in one vehicle, and we can break the peak travel so we can spread travel out throughout the course of a day. And whether we do this through public transportation, through flexible work schedules, through other means of reducing the number, the frequency, and the timing of trips, that's the biggest challenge. It's been a challenge that's been with us for a long time. It's a challenge we're going to continue to face. And actually, some of our responses to the COVID-19 crisis have really underscored that there are solutions out there. So I hope that some of the lessons we've learned regarding social distancing, the way in which we shop, we get goods, the way in which we go to work, the adjustments we made as a result of COVID-19, that some of the beneficial adjustments can stay with us.
You are obviously very highly qualified. You are an expert, a leader in your field, but we want to also remind them that everybody's human. So what's one fun fact that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I have a lot of fun facts, but after I finished college, I served as a Peace Corps volunteer. I served as a volunteer in Liberia, and I would highly recommend that all students, all young professionals consider that. It's about a 2-year commitment, but I think it broadens people's horizons to work in and with other cultures, away from one's home environment in a fairly autonomous manner. And it will bring you the kind of confidence that will allow you to explore new things, not just immediately in your career, but for your life and in your life.
Fantastic. Dennis, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate
so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a great opportunity. I look forward to helping out where I can and mentoring both students and young professionals as we move forward with the REINS project.
Thank you. Stay tuned for more interviews in the REINS Spotlight series, and be sure to follow the REINS app on all social media platforms. Thanks.